The world will tell you a million lies. And I mean, we run into that in the gun space. You can go from law-abiding citizen to dangerous felon overnight, jail, straight to jail. If you go to the range, I want you to be A, safe, and B, effective. Bad stuff happens, and you got to be able to fight through it. Sometimes movies get it right. Most of the time, movies get it way wrong. Once you go down this path, you're not going to be able to go watch movies or TV shows.
Hey, welcome to Table Moments, the Homies Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything, but no politics. We might break that rule a little bit in this episode. I'm your host and captain, Ayman. This week, we have a very special guest. He's a straight shooter who teaches the world how to stay strapped responsibly. He'll help you kit your everyday carry while having the tough, real conversations that everyone needs to hear. He's the host of the Armed Atlas YouTube channel and the Costly Conversations podcast. The YouTuber who wears hats, cooler than Noir, funnier than Touré, a guy enjoying his 2A rights and sharing it with the world. Armed Atlas, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah.
Like, I got to come here anytime I'm feeling a little bit down and just be like, hey, man, just run that intro one more time.
Yeah. I always try to put effort in like the intros and like guests. But here's the thing. I actually like your content, and I think a sense of humor into this whole space, just to give some intro to the viewers here. You do firearms YouTube channel and content centered around that.
Gear and stuff like that.
Yeah. But then you're also the host of the Costly Conversations podcast, where you get to have some of those like real conversations. From what I understand, it is more in that gun space, but I think it does travel outside of that every now and then.
Every now and then, yeah. So what I like to think of it is as like a 2A Second Amendment adjacent thing, where we're having real conversations with real people. And oh, by the way, they are oftentimes involved in the firearm space some way, somehow. For instance, I had a friend, Terry Warfield. He's a YouTuber, does a lot of camera gear reviews and whatnot. He came on the show after I invited him. He had an issue where he did a vlog, went to the range, and he lost like 300 subscribers in a day, because a good chunk of his audience were like, what do you need a gun for? This is crazy. Why are you encouraging people to get into firearms? It's nuts. You a gun nut? You know, that kind of thing. I was like, whoa, we need to talk about that, because I think his content is great regardless if I'm into guns or not. To me, that's just kind of a bonus. But if he said that he's vehemently anti-gun, I'd be like, okay, cool. We disagree on that, but keep telling me more about cameras. But to hear that people removed him from their lives because he endorses or feel strongly about a thing, I find that to be insane. That said, I want to have more conversations like that with guys like you, who maybe you're gun curious, or say, you know, in 6 years, if you become some sort of firearms instructor or whatever, or gun influencer, I want to, you know, have more conversations with you, kind of just talking about, you know, your journey, where you are, why you're here, and things like that. Kind of in a nutshell, what Costly Conversations can often touch on.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, I was showing off the wooden toys. You've seen it on the stories before. It seems like a lot of people are very sensitive when it comes to this topic, especially the more ignorant they are about the space, the more anti they are. And then it turns out, like, as you educate people more and more about this stuff, they start to understand it. And then I've also seen people change their minds on this stuff. And I think your podcast is a great vehicle to actually help educate a lot of people on the nuances of all this stuff that aren't really portrayed accurately when it's covered in mainstream news and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Somebody actually just left a comment on my show. It was an episode with another, he's a little bit older than me, but another black man. He's a firearms instructor, competition shooter, you know, new dad. And we were talking about some stuff, and we were kind of just having a little bit of back and forth about a new gun that had just hit the market. It was getting all the hype and stuff. And we were like, okay, is it being overhyped? Is this thing actually, you know, worth its weight? Somebody recently left a comment, was like, hey man, I love this. We need to have more conversations that, in capital Us, that show us in a different light. Because oftentimes, as a black dude, there's this weird stigma, especially with the way the media works and the way social media works, where you see a lot of black dudes just kind of taking it, or rather giving it out. And it's like, man, that's not most people that I know. Like, most people that I know aren't, you know, planning on how to steal your car from a gas station, or beat up an old lady on the block, or using guns in an irresponsible way. Most of the people I know, and I know a lot of people, especially in the gun space, are just really excited about learning more about the firearms, or really excited about learning how to protect their family in a more comprehensive way, not necessarily just with guns, but also with situational awareness. That's like the big thing. And so I love that we've gotten an opportunity over the last 3 years to share our story and our stories in addition to expanding out a little bit and getting a chance to talk to other people in the space and, really learn as much as we can.
That's a good point. Like being Black in this space is, I think, fighting against the typical narrative that definitely exists, especially like when stuff, I think it was John Morant, the NBA player who got caught with this.
John Morant.
I'm sure I'm sure there's like some details that I think people were missing about that stuff. And maybe there was some like irresponsible behavior and all that. But I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on something like that?
Specifically with the John Morant situation, it's twofold, because one, it's kind of making people look bad. Like, bro, why are you being irresponsible? You got this little gun and you're out here waving it around. And apparently that's like not even who he is. Like he grew up kind of more sheltered, living a life that's completely antithetical to the way he was raised, to how his parents are and whatnot. And so I'm just like, bro, like, what are you doing, first of all? And then he's getting suspended. He's getting written up. He's getting talked about for doing what exactly? Did he break a law? What's happening? Why is his employer punishing him? What exactly are you punishing him for? So that was our questions. It's like, John's being kind of dumb. Like, we don't endorse this, but for him to be punished for having a gun in a video, that feels gross. What are you doing?
If I remember correctly, he plays for Memphis, which...
Yeah, the Memphis Grizzlies, yeah.
If he was with the Mavericks, a Texas team, I think maybe people wouldn't have had that much issue with it.
Yeah, I think it might have been a little bit different just because, obviously teams are heavily dependent on the cities that they're located in. And so Memphis is not necessarily known for being nice. So for him to continue to portray and continue to push an image that just kind of seems grimy, it's like, bro, what are you doing?
It's a perfect image for like Houston. I feel like he would fit well in with the Rockets, man.
He would do just fine in Houston.
Dude, I've heard so many stories about Houston. I'm just like, wow.
I try not to go.
Yeah.
I try not to go.
Yeah. My brother went there like a couple of times. He's like, there was a shootout at a gas station just randomly. I'm like, wow. In situations like that, I saw some of your videos where you talk about everyday carry. So the EDC stuff, how to stay protected, figuring out what you carry on a day-to-day basis.
For me, EDC, everyday carry, there's a couple ways to do it. So some people, they'll carry a knife. Some people carry a gun. Some people will carry an extra magazine. Some people will carry a bag with some medical and things like that. So for myself, if you just stop me in the street any random day, you're going to see me with a backpack, a fanny pack. This is a long list. Firearms, probably it's either my Hellcat Pro or the Glock 45. Hellcat Pro is a little bit easier to carry on body, an easier option for me. And some medical. So a couple tourniquets. A tourniquet, for those who don't know, is a medical device that can cinch around like an arm or a limb, a leg, obviously not around the neck. That's not going to work. If you have some sort of traumatic injury where an artery is nicked and you're bleeding out, you can actually cinch that down, stop the bleeding or stop yourself from bleeding out before help can get to you. Then the doctor can take it off after, attending to your wounds and whatnot. And hopefully it will save your life. A lot of guys overseas and, Iraq and Afghanistan, they did a study or they looked at some of the numbers and they're like, yes, a lot of these injuries or a lot of the fatalities rather could have easily been stopped if they had just a method to be able to, cinch down a leg because, I got nicked by a piece of shrapnel off an IED. So for me, I've known people who've been in motorcycle accidents, car accidents. They actually sustained traumatic wounds. And one was able to pull out the tourniquet because a bone actually pierced the leg. And, he probably could have died. And another friend, her medical was in the trunk. So she was not able to get to it, but thankfully help got to her in time and she didn't end up succumbing to her wounds. So tourniquet's important. Keep some sort of medical. You will, like most people, encounter a medical incident before they encounter an incident that requires deadly force. Deadly force being anything that is like some sort of tool, like firearms, not necessarily hands and feet, but it can be deadly, or some sort of knife or something like that. That's deadly force, right? Somebody randomly in the woods, because I walk in the park all the time, if somebody like runs up to me and just stabs me, I will have some gauze that I can pack in there, hopefully. And maybe I'll live. Maybe I will live. Maybe I won't. But at least I tried.
Is it anything like the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, where he's in the car, he gets shot or something, and he puts that I don't know what it looked like. It just looked like a bunch of rubber pellets that he just stuffed in his abdomen. Like when you watch movies and you're like, it would never play out this way. Or maybe it's just they got it accurate this time.
There's some that make sense. Like, okay, yeah, you can cauterize a wound or whatever. But that isn't always going to be effective, especially if you have some sort of like artery that's spraying inside. Now you're going to die of internal bleeding, have some sort of injury with that. So anybody who takes a TCCC course, which is pretty much teaches you how to handle traumatic wounds, they'll be able to tell you like, hey, yeah, you want to get your gauze in there, actually go and pack that wound, make sure you put pressure on that artery to stop the bleeding so you will, survive, hopefully. Sometimes movies get it right. Most of the time, movies get it way wrong. Once you go down this path, I'm trying to warn you guys, once you go down the path of understanding actually what good form is, how to actually shoot effectively, what makes shooting 10 times harder, what untrained people look like when they shoot and what trained people look like when they shoot, you're not going to be able to go watch movies or TV shows because people do all sorts of stuff. And you're just like, I would never do that. You would never do that. What's happening? Your FBI? Get out of town.
Yeah.
It's time.
That's a fair warning. It's going to ruin all TV and movie shows for you.
Right. It makes it hard.
But at least it'll be safer, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And you realize that movies are just entertainment. Yeah. And oftentimes like, oh yeah, we spent a lot of time researching how to do this and this and that. No, you didn't. Yeah. I know you didn't. Either that or you just don't care. It's okay. Yeah. Just tell me you don't care.
It's like he shot more rounds than the gun actually holds.
Bro, that's the simplest one. It's like this guy is like Glock 19 standard capacity, 15 rounds, right?
Yeah.
And if you see a guy with like an uncut sequence and the camera's just following him and he's going down an alley and just shooting, one-handed or dual wielding pistols or something like that, and all of a sudden he shot 50 rounds. And you're like, how is that just doing them? This man never reloaded once.
Yeah.
What are they trying to pull on us?
Do you think movies like John Wick kind of get it more accurate? Because I think Keanu Reeves
is probably one of the most accurate firearms movies or movies with firearms in it ever. There's a certain realism that, as somebody who understands firearms, or even just if you know some of the basics, right? There's a certain realism that breaks the suspension of disbelief or whatever, that construct in storytelling where you can actually just kind of get sucked into a movie and you understand it's just a movie, but it feels real. Yeah. And all of a sudden you see somebody shooting a gun and the gun never moves. It's just still. No recoil, no nothing, no flash, or if you ever watched a Tubi movie and all of a sudden someone's curving a bullet, it's like, that's not how physics works, buddy.
Wanted isn't real? Oh, man.
What? No, I ruined it for you. Santa Claus not really.
Although it would be funny to try. No, never mind.
Don't try it.
Yeah.
Don't try it. Oh, man. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, so like people who are trained, they can easily recognize in the movies and TV shows, a lot of it's fantasy. It's not real life.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I guess you do all the training for real life situations. That's the point of going into the gun range, actually practicing getting rounds down range. So training becomes a habit. So you don't have to think, because it turns out, what I understand, in emergency situations where you actually have to draw your weapon, adrenaline could be pumping. And if you don't have that training, it's easy to, or at least what I've read is people don't perform as well as they think they will when those situations come up.
Yeah. I don't have the quote specifically, but you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to basically your worst day on the range or your lowest level of training. So if you've trained to be, super fast, my draw time, I can draw the gun out of a concealed position. Like, okay, I got the gun on my hip. I drew it and I put a shot on a target that's 7-10 yards away and I got it in the middle. I did that in under 1 second, which is possible. It is possible. If that's what you can do, then add a few microseconds, because you might get snagged on something. Like we've all had if you train from concealment, where you're drawing your gun from your shirt's over it, you pull your shirt up, you get the gun out, you present the gun. You've snagged the optic or the sights or even the muzzle of the gun under your shirt before. You've done it if you've actually trained for real. And I don't doubt that it's happened to many people in self-defense incidents. Actually, Colion Noir, you mentioned him earlier in your intro. He had an interview with a guy who was a jeweler, and the jeweler went out to go meet somebody, and he went to draw the gun, and his shirt actually snagged on his optic, the red dot optic that was on his gun. And now he won't use the red dots because he feels like it's a liability. Bad stuff happens, and you got to be able to fight through it. So.
Yeah, it's like your training has to simulate game situation. But I think people who aren't familiar with this space don't understand that a lot of people who are into this stuff actually are very well trained. They put a lot of hours of practice, and they're very careful about safety.
A lot of people. Obviously, there are exceptions, and we make fun of them every day, every time we see them.
Yeah.
But I know even for myself, I'm not just a regular guy, even though I present as a regular guy and I consider myself a regular guy. I have, here in the state of Texas, I actually have a security certification, level 3 and 4. 3 being armed security, guy wearing a bulletproof vest, gun on his hip, you can see everything. Ooh. And level 4 being like a personal protection officer, or PPO, which is gun is concealed. I'm not wearing anything to give me away. I'm just a bodyguard. And, I'm plain clothes. And so I work in a team of guys, and we actually primarily work at a church. Thankfully, we've not had too many crazy incidents, but we do get reports from time to time. Okay, this person's having a domestic incident. This person called the church during the week. Now they're making threats. Like, okay, well, let's keep an eye out. We got to trespass them and use the law to our advantage, because at the end of the day, the security personnel, we don't have any rights that a civilian doesn't have. Like, civilian rights, security officer rights, they're the same. Now, a police officer, they can tell you what to do, and they can enforce their will with deadly force. That's why the state is kind of one of those things you have to be aware of, because if you allow laws to be passed and a police officer confronts you on that, they can enforce the law however they see fit. Most people don't quite get that.
Especially when the law is concerned and the Second Amendment so clear. At least it seems so obvious to me, but it's constantly like trying to pass legislation and laws that restrict a basic amendment, which seems contradictory.
The Second Amendment says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean to you?
I know. And here's the thing. I wish people paid attention in their high school civics class, where they understood like all laws that Congress passes have to be derived or have some justification in or from the Constitution. And this is a federal level. So this is the thing that governs the entire land. For whatever reason, I don't know. It seems like a lot of people who are anti this stuff always ignore it. They always ignore it or try to sidestep it, or like, we need to. It's like, are you willing to pass an amendment?
Some people want to repeal it. Some people would like to repeal the Second Amendment using the power of the law to fully do it, because they understand they can pass this law, they can pass this restriction. A lot of laws are very confusing and convoluted. We talked about that last time we spoke, where your rifle can be 16 inches or 26 inches overall, I believe, 16-inch barrel, more or less, if it's an AR-15. But if it's 15 and a half, jail, straight to jail. do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah.
If that's 10 years in jail, or a fine, or is it or a fine of $10,000 or something crazy like that? And so I was like, okay, so I might as well just convert the AR-15 I have right behind me into making it into a full auto, chop the barrel down to however many inches I desire, and do whatever I want, because y'all are crazy.
Right.
Like, and there have been issues like, okay, there's a type of stock. It's not technically a stock, but it's called a brace. And that was really, really popular back in 2020, 2021 to 2022. And a lot of people bought them. A lot of Black people bought them. And then all of a sudden, I think there was a guy who committed a mass shooting, and one or two of his guns had braces on them. It doesn't make the gun more effective. In fact, it makes the gun objectively worse. But ATF was sending out letters saying like, hey, listen, we're going to need you guys to register that gun as a short barrel rifle, because we've all of a sudden changed our mind on how we're going to view these tools and weapons. And so if for you being outside of the gun space, if you went to a gun store 6 years ago or however many years ago, bought a rifle that was 14 inches and had a brace on it, now you are a felon.
Whoa. What? Yeah. There's no like grandfather amendment or something?
No, you're not grandfathered in. So what they would do potentially for you is give you a period to go register that gun. Mm-hmm. And now you have a gun that's registered with the federal government. A lot of people don't want that. In reality, you don't want the government knowing how many guns you have, or that you're even a gun owner to begin with. Like, that's not their business. Like how it's not their business what you had for lunch, or your taste in women. It's not their business, The idea that you can go from law-abiding citizen to dangerous felon overnight is insane. And they can literally visit your house and be like, hey, we know that you bought this because we saw it on your credit card statement. We know how the guns are configured. We need that gun, or we need you in cuffs because you didn't comply. That introduces a lot of problems. And I'm not to sound like dangerous and crazy and conspiratorial, but what if you're like, you know what? No, I don't want to. You can't just come to my house. Well, now they have to take you away. Obviously some lawyer is going to look at this and be like, well, it's actually going to play out like this, this, and this. Now we're having unnecessary contacts with law enforcement agencies, which I would like to have less.
Yeah. Once they get their sights on you, it's usually a miserable experience.
And God forbid you're, a Black guy, maybe a little bit too tall, maybe too muscular of a build. Oh, am I talking about you? Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, it's not just the government. I guess financial institutions have issues with this stuff, and even social platforms.
I love you brought that up. Instagram specifically is really bad. YouTube had some issues, but it's still the best place to produce and consume firearms content. All that being said, there are certain banking institutions that have said, we're going to track all firearms purchases. They don't have to. They really don't have to. But if you bought a gun with our credit card, we're going to log that. And if we want to do something with it, we can give that information to federal law enforcement agencies so that conspiracy time, like if they decided, okay, we're going to pass a law that says citizens aren't allowed to have this type of gun. Yeah, you know what? AR-15s, not going to work. Glocks, because they're too easy to convert into full auto, not going to work. We're going to need to ban those as well. Anything but a pump shotgun, we need to come get that. Now they're seizing your property, right? The fact that they can just find you, to me, that's crazy. My bank is snitching on me.
Oh, yeah.
Stop.
They
The
are.
bank snitched?
Yeah. And they're doing it voluntarily. They're not even compelled.
Right. They didn't even ask you, bro.
Yeah. It's like, what happened to like looking out for your customers, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. And I know PayPal specifically, I had a guy who he was offering classes and you could pay for his classes via PayPal. PayPal actually froze his account and held his money. I don't know if he ever got the money back. And also one of my buddies who's a vendor, he has a storefront called Obsidian Tactics. He actually lost his relationship with PayPal. Now he has to go through Sezzle if he wants to do additional payment stuff as a payment processor, which sucks that he has to do that because PayPal's really effective. I enjoy using it. People offering a legal service. It's not illegal. Nothing about firearms is illegal until you go outside the certain guidelines. Teaching a firearms class is perfectly legal. Why are you deleting customers' accounts and holding their money? Is that theft?
It seems like it.
I know I've gone on for like 45 minutes about like why the government sucks. I'm not a fan of the government, right?
I'm not a fan of it either. And that's the thing, like I have this like anarchy bent to me. That's why a lot of the ideas I come up with are like, how can we screw the system over through like indirect means? So like
just a little bit, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. I don't know. There's something very fulfilling about it. It's like, tell me what to do. And then I'm going to be like, all right, watch now. Watch.
Right.
And then
that's why I'm so happy when I see guys like living an off-grid life.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much, I don't have internet, I don't have this, I don't have that. Because a lot of people who are off-grid have internet, but you're not connected to the city. You're not connected to local utilities, but you're still able to live and survive in a way that is counter to the way the system is supposed to run, you know?
Right.
Like, and why is it supposed to run that way? Because they told you to.
It's all of it.
I sound like a conspiracy theorist.
No, dude. I definitely see it. Especially like I hate how draconian social media is with like what you can say, what you can't say, or you get caught up in the algo and all that stuff.
Bro,
pisses me off.
The amount of people circumventing the algorithm or like auto bans by using words but like spelling it out differently, or on Instagram now you can drop GIFs, or do you say GIF or GIF?
I say GIFs.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's the correct way.
You can drop GIFs and people will spell out racial slurs in comment sections. And I'm like, okay, haha, you're very funny.
Yeah.
You know,
I've got a few of
around.
those.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, somehow you're able to get around Instagram's algorithm. Like they can't detect that. But if I said once upon a time that somebody should be flogged, it was a bad thing. My account got stung for a year. Like they weren't suggesting me, and they're still not suggesting me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I actually was preparing a video script to explain this whole thing. It's just like anytime you ban certain words or you ban speech or you say certain types of content, people will figure out a way to say that stuff just in a coded way. We've developed this whole online language system to make sure we don't get caught up in things that they flagged. I think the funniest thing about it is the new code words are funnier, so they spread easier.
Right.
So
I'll tell you this, and I don't condone people harassing people who have any sort of developmental disability or disorder or anything like that. I actually work in special needs during the day, so I have a special relationship with the good people in the autistic community or people with autism or Asperger's and whatnot. And recently, I've been seeing people on Instagram saying, "Are you restarted?"
What? Wow.
Yes. Like, bro, like, okay, so first of all, IG's telling people what they can and can't say.
Right.
And now they're going to go around it by saying things like restarted.
People are too clever for this stuff.
Right. You're like, bro, you're not going to catch them. Just stop. Just let them say what they want to say. Let me block them, but let them say what they want to say.
That's what the block button's for. I'm surprised people don't use it. I've started using it now. Just anytime I see someone grifting or someone just like trying to chase some clout, saying something controversial for no reason other than for the engagement or just foolish or whatever.
Well, give me an instance. Was this like on your page, like someone trying to go back and forth, trying to flex a little bit? What are they saying?
No, so this is when, since I post content a lot, I spend a lot of time on social media, so I end up sometimes getting dragged into the TikTok algorithm, watching content. Ooh, and then anytime TikTok I see something stupid, it is, dude. It really is. Yeah. I got to be careful with this sometimes. Just like I have a cutoff. It's like, all right, I posted the thing and then put the phone down, go for a walk or something. Like,
right, soak up some natural vitamins.
Yeah, but as far as like the comments and stuff, I've always treated that as a space where people can be open and free. And if sometimes the platforms will just ban the comments automatically. This happens on the live streams too. I can't do anything to control that. But as far as the comment section, tell me, they can call me whatever they want. Even with the coded words, I see that too. And I just like, whatever, I don't care. Right. Because to me, it's just like you engage with the post. So it's good for engagement. And
it is good for engagement. The only comments that I have a serious problem with, and maybe this is just me being a male chauvinist pig, is if I have a female guest and somebody says something just kind of crazy and out the way, I'll just go ahead and block you, bro. Like, nah, I don't have time. And maybe other people don't feel as strongly, but for me, I work really hard to have good, solid, platonic, professional relationships with all of my female guests and the females that I interact with in the space. For you to come in here and be like, she looks like a, how do they say it? HO3?
304. 304.
304.
Yeah,
304.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't even know internet lingo. Yeah. I love how that came so naturally to you.
Yeah. I'm really plugged in, man. I can understand, especially when it's a guest who's come on your show. It's like you sort of have to respect their presence there. I know everyone handles it differently and the comments differently. For me personally, I think I'm the same way like you. Like, I don't mind if people call me whatever in the comment section, even ruthlessly just mean. If they start talking about a guest, it's just like, especially if they're not in the space too, even more so, I think it's you sort of have a duty to respect that they came on your platform.
Obviously, like I said, people are going to have different philosophies about it, but that's something that I remember distinctly being quite annoyed about. And I was like, nah, we're not going to do that. You could do anything else. You could talk about me. You could talk about my pimples. You could talk about my beard. Oh, he don't grow it in really well on one side. Okay, whatever. Thanks for letting me know. Don't talk about the guest. Like, come on. Don't be like that. Like, that's a lady. She came on here. She was vulnerable with us. For you to just flap your gums and just say what you got to say, get out of town.
We can have a whole segment about social media because like doing this stuff, man, I've learned so much, and I've also become sort of immune to negative comments. I don't think there's anything anyone can say that would ever bother me at this point. I do have a couple rules when it comes to like deleting comments. I delete spam. So anyone spamming in the comment section, obviously you gotta, sometimes the bot filters don't work that well on these platforms. So I have to do it manually. And then the other one is any accusations of any criminality to anyone. If anyone's making accusations about like, or claims related to criminality of me or anyone in the comments, I'm like, no, we're not missing that. We don't need alphabet boys coming in, reading the chat or whatever.
Alphabet boys. I love how you just said alphabet boys. The feds.
The feds, dude. You got to be careful. They're watching this stuff.
They really do. But their systems are getting so elaborate. Like I was watching a video of some sort of federal level initiating a drug bust. And to do it, they said, we used to have to sit up on a rooftop and watch everybody going in just to kind of nail down what houses were getting the most traffic. Now we just have a system, computers and running algorithms and AI that basically track different movements. And we can say like, oh, this house on the street has gotten over 100 visits in the last week by different people, like not even like the same, different people. All I have to do now is serve up a warrant and then we just kick in the doors tomorrow.
Wow. Like, that's enough to get a warrant? I guess if the AI and software, I mean, know. That's crazy.
Probable cause is one of those things where if a police officer can articulate it, they can do what they want. And that's why you have to be so careful when dealing with police officers. I'm not saying I have any issue with police officers beyond the obvious, right? And not even what you think, right? But my issue is if they can articulate why they did a thing, if they can articulate, why I felt comfortable pulling a gun before I came to your window, or why I felt comfortable tasing you or pepper spraying you because you were saying something and now you're resisting and this guy is a lot bigger than me. I can articulate that I felt in danger and now I can do what I want. And so there's some danger there. As a self-defender, whether you're using a gun or a knife or pepper spray or bear spray or whatever, no matter what you're using, if you can articulate why you did what you did, you should be okay. As long as it's like within the bearings of the law.
Have you heard this thing that's going on in like the UK with zombie knives?
Are we talking about they're trying to do a knife ban again because their knives are too big and scary, and people they banned all the guns, so now they have knives. And listen, beyond the knives, acid attacks. Look up the number.
Whoa, acid attacks.
Would you rather be shot, or would you rather have somebody pour a cup of acid on your face because they didn't like you?
Yeesh.
Now, that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I accidentally stumbled on it on TikTok when I was doing the scrolling, and I was like,
the zombie knives.
Yeah, and they have this. It's basically all the two-way conversations that happen in the U.S. except in the space of knives. And I was just like, do people not understand? This is what happens. You just the window shifts to something else that they want to get rid of. After they get rid of those, they're going to probably talk about like sharp pens or something. I don't know.
That's the painful part about watching the way the world is working currently. I think Idris Elba, one of my favorite actors of, our generation or whatever generation he's a part of, he was on a show going on about how like, it's crazy. Like you can literally go to the store and buy a knife, and I can go to my car and pull out a big knife like this, and it shouldn't be allowed. And you're like, bro, shut up. Like you sound like you know what you sound like.
Yeah. You're supposed to be Stringer Bell, bro. Like it ruins the image for sure. Not gonna lie.
Bro, like, and a lot of like Hollywood actors, celebrities, people with some sort of clout or personality are kind of big babies. Like they don't understand that the world is a dangerous place and people should be allowed to defend themselves. And if you feel any sort of credible threat, you could have a team of 30 guys guarding your house while you sleep.
Right.
What do I have? It's just me, man. Like it's me and my wife, but I'm like the primary. To get my security licenses, I had to go through a 50-hour course. Like I trust myself to defend myself correctly, but I can't outsource my self-defense. I can't outsource my protection like a lot of these guys can and will and have. Yeah. Where, my driver, he's armed and I have a bodyguard team. No, it's just me. So for you to tell me what I can and can't have, like go on somewhere with that. Like, nah, we're not doing that.
A lot of these people are speaking from a place of privilege, not realizing how ignorant they are of the realities of the average person. Mm-hmm. It's just like, how do they get away with that? Like, just saying this stuff publicly, and then obviously the media is not checking them. So
no, the media won't, because unfortunately the media has a particular bent, whether they're more liberal or more conservative or whatever you want to call yourself. Oftentimes they don't necessarily, even people who are like on the conservative side, they'll be like, yeah, people should have guns. But if you really got them to sit down and be like, okay, so what guns should they have? What do you have? When's the last time you went training? You feel like we should have any restrictions? Like, should felons have guns after they've served their sentence? Well, how do you feel? Like, they'll slowly chip away and let you know that they aren't really about this life of making sure that anybody can arm themselves in whatever fashion or form that they choose. I mean, those are all hard questions that you have to ask yourself, and I can't tell you the answer. I can't say like, well, no, you should believe exactly the way I do. But I hope that you actually think about it.
Yeah, see, I would respect a lot of people who are anti all this stuff, who just went to the gun range once. Just go to the gun range once, shoot, and then make a judgment. But it seems like a lot of these people already have strong opinions about these things that they've never experienced before. So it's just like, no wonder they sound completely ignorant when they talk about this stuff, especially like what we were talking about on your podcast. Like, just the look of it scares them. And so then they make all these judgments about this thing, even though it's the same thing as like a hunting rifle or something.
Exactly. Like, okay, so the gun furniture is like the stock, some of the grips type stuff.
That's what they call it? Furniture?
Yeah. So like, I have a Magpul furniture on my gun.
Okay. I like that.
That's like a term. If the gun has like wooden furniture, like, so this is a hunting gun. It's got a bolt. It's a bolt action hunting gun with a wooden stock and a brass colored this, or it's not a black gun, anodized or nitride coated black gun with black grips, black stock, black, everything. Like, people are more afraid of the black gun than they are of the gun that looks like their great grandfather might have owned it, that it might be used for hunting, even though hunting weapons are generally an order of magnitude stronger, more powerful, will completely F your day up than civilian guns, such as, when I say civilian guns that are commonly used in civilian self-defense, such as 9mm handguns, or even civilian level rifles that are not fully automatic, such as the AR-15.
I think it would be some funny video ideas for you. Like actually taking one of these, like they call them assault rifles or whatever, but just like doing maybe like a wooden coat or something, just to make it look as basic as possible. Like the toy I have back there, I can't even whatever, but
Bro,
I think it would be hilarious.
Be funny. Just like a pine color, you know, just spray
it. Yeah.
Look, it's wooden, guys.
Exactly.
It can't hurt you.
Exactly. Man.
This is only for squirrels.
Yes.
I saw the funniest thing the other day. It was a Joe Biden recording, and he was going on about how you put a brace on it and you can fire a bigger caliber out of it. It makes it more dangerous. Does not know what he's talking about when it comes to how firearms actually function. He's the same one who said, buy a double barrel shotgun. He told his wife, Jill, that if she's ever alone at the house and there's ever some trouble outside, just go out to the deck and fire 2 rounds into the air. It's like, this man really just told you to fire warning shots, which are illegal in many states. So he's telling you to break the law.
And then they're going to lock you up for it. It's like, right. No. I mean, literally, the president of the United States formally said this. Like,
yeah. Is he going to exonerate me? Like, come on, dude.
Right.
Bro, it's crazy. And what people don't realize is at certain ranges, shotguns are actually more lethal than handguns.
I wonder,
what should you have?
Yeah. It's like culture plays a big role into this. Like, yeah, we have the Second Amendment and everything, but I think a lot of the media people consume and people's perceptions about this stuff is largely shaped by what they're consuming. But I was thinking, like, what would be the path forward for this community to make this more accepting so that there isn't all this like cat and mouse game that's constantly being played with, like laws that are attempted to pass and people adapting to it and falling in or out of legality. And I'm thinking like video games like Call of Duty are teaching a lot of at least younger guys about this kind of stuff. And so I would wager a lot of young people who've never even fired a gun before probably know a lot about weapons just based on their interaction.
There's a certain level of knowledge that you can get, but unfortunately the fantasy aspect of Call of Duty is not pure milsim or a simulation. There's a lot of attachments that you can put on that you would never be able to put on, or you would never consider to put on this gun or that gun, or now we're going to use like a incendiary ammo. You know, it's like, okay, like this is a video game. You know, that's a video game. But yes, I think exposure is a good thing. I found it fascinating, and this is almost off topic, but bear with me, that the Army and like Air National Guard, they were actually advertising on Twitch. So as guys are watching their favorite streamer go into war zones and Call of Duty Warzone battle royale matches and like getting their wins, okay, now it's going to commercial break, and hey, do you want some money? Are you poor and in your basement and are you struggling? Guess what? Join the Air National Guard. We give a sign-on bonus and we'll give you a life purpose. And it's like, these guys are poaching this kid's right out of their mother's couch.
Crazy.
That's insane.
Wow.
Like, yeah, I don't think they use that exact language, but this is what's being communicated. Did you just graduate high school and is your life kind of vacillating the drain a little bit? Like, are you struggling? Are you having trouble with girls? Like, maybe you don't quite know what to do. I actually had a family member who actually considered joining the infantry because he was having dark thoughts, and he was like, you know what, this is probably the best path for me, and if I die, I die. Like, whoa, that's dark, but that's, you know, the meat grinder. What can we do to kind of normalize guns, you know, normalize arms? And really, it's kind of what we've been doing, only at a higher level. Guys like Demolition Ranch, where he's like, hey, I have 10,000 Twinkies and I'm going to use this 50 cal and I'm going to shoot through them.
How do you feel about content like that, though?
It's, you know, there's content like that in every genre.
Okay.
You know, as long as you're kind of operating in as safe as possible way. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit jealous because he's getting millions of views and I'm not. You know?
Is he like the Mr. Beast of the
pretty much
the firearms? Okay.
Yeah, he's the biggest one at this point. There's a lot of guys who are doing numbers, but anything he drops is getting millions of views.
Well, here's the thing. The guys I miss, he doesn't make content anymore. FPV Russia.
Oh, FPS Russia?
Oh, FPS, yeah.
Yeah. He's actually still around, but he doesn't make gun content anymore.
See, that's the thing. The guys who are really about it, who are like really good at the content and also very creative in that space, they end up getting nuked. And then I don't know about Demolition Ranch. I've seen some of his videos, but I'm just like, I guess
he's all right, but he's not ultra outspoken. Not in a way that people will recognize him as being outspoken. Like, hey, listen, like Second Amendment rights, you got to make sure that, you know, you're getting out there, you're training. This is all fun and good, but like if you're thinking about getting into guns, go find a good instructor. Here is somebody that I know. I'm not going to charge him $1 billion to get the sponsor spot, but I want you guys to use this service to find instructors that are going to help you out. There's a certain amount of goodwill and philanthropy that you have to have in your heart if you're going to really push not just the Second Amendment space, but like civilian defense and overall self-protection and making sure people are equipped. I use these two words, safe and effective, to communicate how I want my content to impact you and how I want you to be at the end of the day. If you go to the range, I want you to be A, safe, and B, effective. Because at the end of the day, if you get into a self-defense incident, if some guys decide to kick in your door, they see you there, okay, he's seen our face, we got to take him out. I want you to be effective in being able to put rounds into center mass on target, not sending it into your neighbor's house. I want you to put rounds exactly where they go and allow them to see their final judgment. Maybe, if not, just stop the threat. Also, I want you to be safe, whether you're with your family, whether you're with little kids, whether you're with people who have been doing this for a long time. I want you to be very safe in the way not timid, but safe. There's 4 ways to be safe. There's 4 major firearms rules, and I'm going to try to quote them without flubbing over myself. Always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Treat every gun as if it's loaded, and always be sure of your target and what's beyond it. And for that last one, I also say, what's around you. Because if you're at a shooting range and you're on the firing line and somebody's shooting and you drop a magazine or your gun's acting up and you rack the gun and a round comes out and you go to check it out and you actually bend down in front of somebody who's actively shooting, you put yourself in danger. And if somebody decides, somebody behind you is like, hey, I'm going to start shooting, and they're just not fully aware of what's going on, now you're in danger. I want you to come home with as many holes as you went there with. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Learning those skills, being able to keep your family safe. And you're a family man, husband, father. How do you manage the content, the type of content you make, and then balancing it with the family and informing and teaching them stuff too?
I think it's hilarious because my oldest, she's a little kid. She's 4. She thinks it's so cool. Sometimes she'll walk in and she'll see me editing, or I'll play a video. Maybe I'll play it on the big screen, just trying to, see hey, does this look good? And she'd be like, oh, Daddy, I like you're shooting. I like it when you go to the range. And it's the weirdest conversations. And one time she saw me dry firing, which is removing all the ammunition from my gun, completely clearing it out, and then getting repetitions in, drawing it from concealment, presenting the gun, pulling the trigger into a safe direction, as safe as possible. And she was like, Daddy, don't shoot the wall. And I was like, no. How do I explain this? She walked into the room when I was doing it. It's not like I just decided, I'm just going to dry fire in front of you. Although I don't fault somebody for doing that if they choose to, but just understand, now you have to have a conversation. So this is explaining firearms to a 4-year-old is sometimes a little hard because she's not all the way there in regards to her comprehension of what guns can do. But in her mind, she's explained this to me, that guns are for fighting. Yeah, maybe I need to add some more context to it. And, I've explained hey, if you see a gun on the floor, my boy, he actually wrote a book called Erica's Big Day, which kind of tells little kids what to do in the incident that they actually find a firearm, and which is stop, don't touch, go find an adult and let them know. And so for me, that's been something I've been doing my best to try to drill. Is hey, if for some reason, because my guns are locked behind safes and lock boxes, and even any potentially a majority of the guns are actually locked behind a special coded door. It's got a code to get into the door. You can't just walk in. So there's really not much opportunity for her to run into a firearm. But even still, teaching her hey, listen, if for some strange reason you did run across one, maybe not even one of mine, maybe you went to a friend's house and you're seeing a firearm on the dinner table for some reason. I can't control the way other people treat their firearms. That she knows hey, stop, don't touch, go tell somebody hey, you need to put that up. You did ask how do I manage creating a bunch of content and having family time? I'm really intentional about being a good dad. I think it's one of the things that I cared most about. Even when they were born, I was I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing, being a good dad. And part of that is actually just being present and being aware. And some of that sometimes is hard because social media is super vapid and it's always hey, check in with this person, and hey, somebody's DMing you. Can you get back to them about this? And hey, let's get this collab going. But being there, really just trying to make sure that I'm present as much as possible. We can kind of balance the two or find some sort of balance, because it's never truly balanced, but trying to make sure that they know I'm not just locked away in an office editing all night or all day. It's hard, but I try.
I have some rules when it comes to social media, because all the hate and all the interactions you can have on social media, I don't consider it a safe space for people who aren't in this game. There are civilians, and then there are us who actually are used to all this stuff. So we have experience in this space. And so as far as I'm concerned, my girl will never show up on camera. My kids, when I have them, are never going to show up on camera. It's just a rule for me. It's there's a line there.
I don't even think I would show their silhouette. Like I thought about like, hey, you know, like can we like if we ever go to the range, can we, you know, take a picture of just their faces in it? I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do that. Some things are just for me.
Yeah,
Like it was the funniest thing. The other day, I walked outside and the sun was shining and the air was clean. Everything like was great, and I wanted to just take a picture or something and post it on social. But I was like, first of all, I don't want to dox myself because some people they can find out exactly where you live just by the tree in the background. You know, what I mean?
Yeah,
like these people are severely autistic, and it's great. That's their superpower. But I don't need you at my house. Like I don't need those problems. I don't need it. But also, at the end of the day, you don't have to share everything with followers or, you know, no matter how big or small you are on social media, some things are just for you. People get upset because they're like, oh, why is this girl filming herself crying? And it was like, part of that's just a content thing. And sometimes you don't have to share that moment that's just for you, but it's your choice. So regarding kids, yeah, my kids don't show up on camera. That's not something they chose, you know, like if they were like, hey, I want to make a YouTube channel and I'm playing with dollies. Okay. Yeah. But we're not going to show your face. Right. But my content is my content. My wife isn't in my content because I think we posted like a wedding anniversary photo, but that's about it. I don't have any problem with what you just said. It makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like it's so easy, especially when you're in this content creation game, chasing the views, trying to make things and connect with people online. And especially I notice, man, I don't like it when I run across it, but like when kids are the focus of a social media account or something like that. I'm just like, man,
a lot of like family vloggers or whatever. That's what they do.
And it seems wholesome, but at the same time, it's just like, all right, you're documenting this kid's life online, and there's weirdos out here. And
oh yes, Instagram actually got busted up pretty good. There were networks of people who have a certain proclivity towards the most innocent amongst us. I'll just use that word. I don't want you to get flagged on the different mediums. They were literally like, hey, basically selling pictures of what they call chickens. And it was like what's happening? Like Instagram knows all the code words and all the stuff, but they can't stop a very heavy traffic, like thousands of people moving about and doing these things. Like y'all can't stop it. Like y'all are existing on this. I could understand like they're on Telegram or something where it's a little bit more unregulated. But if I can't post a picture of a gun, but you can trade photos and exchange money and all these things, for a thing that's a very serious crime, like SVU would be on your butt, like if they find out who you are and what you were doing.
Yeah, some things are just too sacred for social media, and I wish, I especially see younger people make this mistake where they put it all out there, and it's just like that's
like I said with the crying.
Yeah.
And it's like, he cheated on me. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Why are you telling your 50,000 followers about your relationship?
There's a lot of downsides that can come with this game that I don't think people who are, especially younger people, don't appreciate until they see the opposite side or actually face some of the consequences that come with this stuff, which is why I'm like always careful about the audience capture problem and letting the audience dictate what the content's going to be. Otherwise, then you end up losing yourself. Dude, I see people actually falling to this trap in real time, and it's just like tragic to see happen because it's like it's happened to plenty of people on YouTube and it's happening to people on TikTok. It's a trap.
Basically, the audience at this point now dictating exactly how you react, respond, what you can say, what you can't say. And that's a dark and dangerous place where what was your outlet, what was your creative space, now you're concerned like, oh man, someone's going to be mad at me for liking this thing or for not saying this thing. I mean, that can happen a little bit in the gun space. Like there's certain brands and companies that have had products that have been faulty or defective in the past, even on kind of a wide scale, or maybe they're the budget entry level brand. So any guy who's like a gear whore really is like, nah, that's trash. Only get things that cost 3 times as much. You know what I mean? And I get it. Like if you can snob out a little bit, like snob out, but it can lead to a thing where I've personally felt this, like when I first got into the space and I didn't have that many guns, I was like, man, I can't post guns every day. Like some of these guys, like they've got $3,000 guns, $10,000 guns, $15,000 after all the accessories and the night vision and all that. I've felt like a sense of shame because like, oh, I don't want my audience to think I'm a poor, you know. I don't want to be seen rocking this piece of gear or doing this review on this thing because it's not what some of the guys that I'd be embarrassed to see for certain people to see me running this. And that's a weird peer pressure. I've kind of gotten past that mostly, but even more into like the specific audience capture. If I were to be like, hey, you know what? Joe Biden has a point on name a thing, student loan forgiveness. Oh my gosh, that would get me so much hate. I would get so much hate.
Yeah.
Not because people aren't for student loan. I mean, there's a lot of people who aren't for student loan forgiveness. And oftentimes, if you're in the firing space, that directly correlates to your political position. Oftentimes, not always. Right. When you're Black, it's a little bit different. There's a bigger variance. Ultimately, audience capture is a terrible thing.
I'm always constantly thinking about this stuff. And I think I even mentioned on your podcast where I was like, I constantly even put pieces of content out there to push people away. Specifically for this reason. Specifically for this reason. Because like, I don't like the idea.
You might be a little bit crazy though. You might be a little bit of a nut because I'm a big fan of what you do. Like just point blank period. Anytime you put something up, I'm watching it. When you're like, hey, I voted for Trump. And I was like, oh, he's trying to lose all his followers. I see you, bro. The Instagram algorithm didn't even push it to your main audience.
Nope.
And the ones who saw it, maybe you lost like a few.
Yeah, but it was like 200 maybe.
And I'm like, is he trying to, this is my question to you. Are you trying to condition your audience to be okay with you saying whatever the freak you want to say? Or like, what's the point of that ultimately?
The first thing is I don't like the idea of people dictating what I can and can't say, especially when the rise up was so fast. It all happened in December. The following grew a stupid amount. I knew
because you posted that one video with the microwave and the other one with the
there's those few cool viral videos. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, just to be clear, I want people to understand what they've hit follow on. I don't care to change myself or be dishonest because I know a lot of people again fall in this trap of like, all right, now that I have a sizable audience, I have to be careful what I say and all that. And I'm like, I don't care to do this game if I have to walk on eggshells. So I made that
Kanye
post.
Can say whatever he wants to say.
Exactly. And
I want to be like Kanye.
Yeah, we all want to be like Kanye. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather lose it all than not be able to say what I feel is and know to be true. And so that's the thing. It's like I'm not just saying
but
stuff.
That's the courage of your convictions right there. Because a lot of guys would be like, well, how do I make some money from this first? Because the lifespan of a content creator is quite small. Mm-hmm. Like obviously we're in a new era where can we like how long is Charlie D'Amelio, who's big content creator on TikTok, how long is her lifespan going to last before she kind of fizzles away into, obscurity, before she's kind of forced to create, when I say forced, no one's forced to create an OnlyFans account to try to spark her career a little bit, Like, when I would say no shame, but there's plenty of shame and I'm not for it.
Yeah. And it's just like, I'm not going to be beholden to the audience like that. And I care to say certain things and be honest about it. And then also elevate the human spirit because I understand because of the way the recommendation engines work, they're constantly feeding people vices and sinful things because that's what the human body craves and the human mind craves too. And so I'm like, what if I can take this in a different direction, actually edify people, actually be honest and truthful about a lot of things. Also sharing stuff that is actually controversial because I think that's where the cultural shifts can actually happen. And then if I could do that and build an audience, which I know it's eventually I'm going to get kicked off. I know it. But if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way.
Somehow. I'm not sure how they're going to get you, but they will get you somehow.
It's been a running joke. I've been trying to get myself canceled for like 3 years. And,
listen, a lot of guys would kill to get to where you are. But then again, there's the question of like, okay, how do you kind of take this thing up to 11? Like people continuously push the envelope. Hey, I did it. And people are like, wow, that's crazy. And it's like the novelty of that. But if your whole draw is novelty, you have to continue to kick it up.
Yes. Yes.
Like you have to continue the dopamine drip.
Yeah.
For your audience. Because one day someone's going to open the app and be unimpressed with what you just did. And they're gone. And your lifespan as a creator will get closer and closer to that zero mark of, that's the expiration date. You're going to have to go get a regular job now, buddy.
Yeah. And I think that's the trap of trying to attract an audience based on just spectacular visuals and ideas, which I think is the trap. Like Mr. Beast, he is I guess, best on the platform. But as far as my content, I've chosen it turns out people end up hitting the sub button, subscribe button, follow button because they end up liking my personality because I like to think that I keep it. I like to keep it real. Yeah. I like to keep it real. I don't know. I just, this whole rigged game we're all playing. And like I said in that video, you can't put me into a box, and I don't care to put anyone else in a box. And
well, as the son of African immigrants, as you recently admitted, I know you've said in the past that like, oh, maybe your aunts or whoever have found your social media page and they're surprised because are you more yourself here than you are with them? Or I understand because as a son of an islander, interesting the amount of expressiveness that you are allowed.
Yeah. So it's with my fiance's family. I'm very reserved family. And quiet. Yeah. But with my family, they know. They know. I feel like I go a little heavier with my family because, you don't have the noose of the social platforms and the rules and everything. So I can be honest. It's not like I'm punchy for no reason, but I do like to challenge everything that I know and also the people around me. And so like some of these older episodes on YouTube where it was my brother and I just having a conversation sort of like this. And we were talking about like how I have this insistence to like pop people's delusional bubbles all the time. And I don't have respect for them at all. And it's just like, I was like,
this is Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah, basically I'm that dude. And then just getting deep into it. And then it started opening up his mind on a lot of the things that he can, because I feel like he's more conventional, which nothing wrong with that. It's definitely, I think it's a more peaceful state of mind for sure. But I'm just not built that way. So
probably. I mean, you're kind of an agent of chaos, and I'm here for it.
Kinda, yeah. Recently found some connection with God and spirituality, which has reined that in, I think, and is steering it in a proper direction. But before that,
that word spirituality is so funny because I think that's like the catch-all term that allows people who are like antithetical to God, like enemies of God in a sense, to be like, oh, okay, he's spiritual. So like I could talk about abortion and he's not going to, freak out.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, well, we can all have standards. And I don't know your personal stance on that. I'm not going to force you to share that right now, but especially because, social platforms and whatever. Right. But the term spirituality is such a funky term, For myself, like I've had a weird like journey with Christ and finding like what that relationship really is. Cause first it was my parents' relationship and then I tried to find it for myself, but I found I was like wearing a mask. I was not being fully authentic. And then I was like, okay, now I'm locked in. I'm in this place where I'm actually chasing God. And then, kind of like I got out of that place and I was like kind of like falling away, not like afraid of God, not hating God, but like kind of wanting to do my own thing and kind of running wild in the ways I thought I could get away with it, And now I'm back in a place where I think I can own my faith as my own. Obviously we all have struggles and things that we deal with and ways that we interact with the world and some things that we're not proud of. But I think I'm happy to say that work in progress. Yeah. And that my relationship with God has helped me tremendously. And if someone's listening and you've been thinking about it, talk to God. Just talk to him. Because I think, if you talk and you're sincere, like he'll answer. That's my little spiel. So.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. I found some guidance and a sense of peace actually in my spirit by reading the word and also praying. Before the connection, it was like a lot of, when you see the injustice in the world or the fakeness of the world, it's just in me to fight back and resist. And I had that rebellious spirit in me. And then also like reconciling that with like Romans and all the stuff that's in there about not necessarily being rebellious just for the sake of it, but it's something I'm still a work in progress, I think as well too. So I'm just trying to figure it out as I go along and maybe slowly over time sharing a little bit more of it in the content. But at this point, it's just honesty and truth is my mission.
That's so important because the world will tell you a million lies. And I mean, we run into that in the gun space, right? Where we talked about that. It's like people aren't being exactly honest about what these guns are capable of. I mean, obviously they're all lethal devices. Like any gun can knock you off the planet. Like any gun can do it. People aren't really being honest about their intentions with certain things. Like, hey, why are we making these rules? Why are we making it a little bit harder? Why are we doing buybacks where we take advantage of people who are very poor? You can give me your gun. I'll give you $100 coupon to, Whole Foods or whatever, what's happening? Just some thoughts.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome to have you on. This is your chance to plug anything you want. Let the people know what you got going on, man.
Well, I'll say it here first. We have a new podcast coming up. Not a new episode, but a brand new podcast show I'm creating called Gun Club, and it is entirely geared towards the new novice beginner shooter for people who are interested in firearms. If you're curious about, oh, you were talking about the EDC, I'm going to talk about belts, I'm going to talk about holsters, I'm going to talk about what kind of gun is optimal for concealed carry. If you're curious about that kind of stuff, head over to what's currently listed as youtube.com/Costly Pods or the Costly Conversations podcast channel. Make sure you subscribe there because we're going to add that podcast into its own playlist, and you'll see it when it comes up. You're going to be kind of surprised with the people that we bring on the show to have mini segments and really share some of the details and thoughts behind a lot of the products that you actually do need if you're going to kind of get started for real. Like, you can't just carry a gun on your waist. That's not how it works. You got to have a holster. Mm-hmm. And some of the people who have engineered these products, I'm going to have them come on for just a second and share some of the details that you're not going to get from anywhere else. And of course, if you are on YouTube, the best place to follow me, youtube.com/Armed Atlas. You can find gun reviews, gear reviews, get to know me for the theatrical side a little bit. You know, we have a lot of fun shooting guns and doing drills and trying to capture it on camera. And you can follow me on Instagram, same handle @Armed Atlas, but Instagram shadow banning the heck out of me. Yeah. So if you follow me there, send me a DM because I'll send you over to the Discord group and we can all chat and have a good time and all that stuff. Man, thanks so much for inviting me on and, you know, being bold and having these conversations. I'm sure there's somebody who's listening to this like punching the air right now. Oh, they talked about guns the whole time. Like, how dare, you know, but hey, if that's you, whoever you are, I appreciate you being here. You could hate me, you can love me. I don't care so much, but I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Just don't forget to like and subscribe before you exit.
Yeah. What about the wallets? Are you still doing the wallets?
Yeah, I am. Weirdly enough, I've been running Facebook ads, and so it turns out the people who are actually making the purchases are not people who actually consume the content. So I have that sort of like separation. If I lose the content, whatever, I don't care. This is sustainable.
Guys, if you're watching this, make sure you support your boy. Buy a wallet. You don't even have to have it for yourself. Give it away. It's a cool gift.
And it comes with the $2 bill as well. So
it comes with money.
It comes with money. Yes.
Bro, you giving away money?
I am. I'm like Mr. Beast, small scale. Customers reply to me. They're like, "Oh, this is a nice surprise," and I love the wallet. I'm like, "Yes, perfect. That's exactly what I'm trying to do." Bro.